Labotha phobile iCovid bayethe wena waphakathi usho njalo ke Mswati kulomnyama kulabalithuli kulodungandaba sembelebeleni bakhephula ngejozi igazi liyaphalala bethe wena waphakathi
You see, when you read the Word of God each and every day and apply it in your life, it changes the way you do things. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you reason or you comprehend situations because you look at them from a faith perspective. Someone who reads the Word of God and someone who does not read the Word of God, these two people are different. What a mighty God we serve. It can also be night in your life when the life sorrows make you feel life is dark and there's nothing you can see. You cannot see the future. God is there and He sees the future. As Christians, we have to stand in the faith, stand in the position of God. This is what the Lord says.
Ungaphuthelwa ukulalela live lenkosi njalo ngeSonto ekuseni nga-10 a.m. kanye nangemsombuluko ebusuku nga-10 p.m. His word, where His voice matters.
Uyezwana uthokandaba emagumbamane omhlaba ngemandla sibaya esigodlweni elitsitsini mhlati ngemashumi lamabili nakuthathu imbala usho njalo ke Mswazi omnyama kulabaluthuli ulodunganzaba wasembelebeleni ulodunganzaba wasemambondweni uduma phasi bakuzwe ngezingcingo msakandaba bakuzwa ngezingcingo bayakubalekela bayethe wena waphakathi.
Because it is the 11th of October, a very good morning. Welcome to another edition of Kusile Breakfast Show. Libito lami nguSifiso ngiwakanqumala ngihambe ngedwa ngihamba nalungelele Magagula, who is always with me. Sifushana incola naye kunjani mfowethu?
How are you this morning?
Ngiphila kakhulu.
Yes, and good morning to you, Babugeli. Thank you for joining us this morning. Tatiteka tindzaba tethu lomhla ekseni ehlelo nisabanje sikhulumisana nabasuka ehovisini leliphini la Ndvunankhulu njengoba takhumula nje ukuthi on December 19 ngemnyaka 2011 inhlangano kaMhlahlengeni United Nations General Assembly declared October 11 as the International Day of the Girl Child to recognize girls' rights and the unique challenges girls face around the world. Kanti ke ngekusho kwe-report yeminyaka wa 2013 leyalungiswa inhlangano e-UNESCO yavetela ukuthi 31 million girls of primary school age were not in school and about one out of every 4 young women in developing countries had never completed their primary school education. Sidaba sikhulumisana nje naye Masulu sokhona ehovisini eliphina Ndvunankhulu kuva ukuthi ngabe tinkinga tini vele leti hlangabetana nebantfana lapha ekhaya Eswatini. Sakhumbula ukuthi inhlangano kaMhlabhlangene soliyavete velele ukuthi dinenkinga leti hlangabetana nabo bamphana fire cuts leti ukuthi labanye besabasakhoni nekucetha esikoleni especially kuma primary schools. Lapho nje sikhulumisane nembali bongiwe hlatshwa nje bakhumbula ukuthi kulandzela umgamo wesibili wemsebenzi lomkhulu welive umhlanga kulempela somvo lesiya kuyo sabe sikhulumisana naye lomhlakseni.
Kanzike sitaphinze sikhulumisane na LinkedIn Gule makugabanca insimbi yesithupha kukhumbuta nje umsebenzi lomkhulu lochubekako we-formation of iParliamentary yelishumi nakubili yeliveke la kaNgwanda. Ukhumbula ukuthi 6 days ago on the 4th of October ngonyama yabulala labangemalunga ke eParliamentary endlu yaba esikhulu kungeda kulabo labakhethwe etinkhundleni ngemphelela ke kwayo House of Assembly sevele iphelele ibese ke seyincoma labo labatawuba ngemalunga eParliamentary yendlu yetimphunga. Siyafuna kuva ukuthi ke kulandzela siphi sigaba njengoba sibonile itolo ukuthi kube neba hopefuls langu 35 endlini ke yaba esikhulu endlini yetimphunga rather la nominatiwe esukwini la itolo. We were expecting ukuthi bese ke bayakhethwa labo labatawukhethwa outside of law 35 njeke kusho ke press statement itolo kodwa kugcina kungenteki lokho. We want to hear the following processes after the process lesikuyo nokuthi nje utawusukhethwa kanjani Senate President konke lokho sitakuva when LinkedIn Kule joins us at 6:30.
Right, lesikhathi sitawubuka ihloko letamba imbili kumaphephandaba. Siqale ngekubuka iTimes of Eswatini lomuhla. Kuleti hamba embili new old faces in race for 10 Senate seats. Former senators, ministers, business people, CEOs, mayor, part of 35 nominees. More on that story on page 2. Kuleti hamba embili. It's now official. No more matric in Eswatini schools. Until Tibuya enhlanganweni yakasnat, we will not remove video on FB. Bulletin Tibuya ka FSRA likhwana beneficiaries confront FSRA.
Kutemidlalo Times of Eswatini 0.7 billion emalangeni squad to face Sihlangu. To get a full understanding of that story, Siku Times of Eswatini. Kanzike kulesinye sithebe Banyana Bow of Kosafa. Kanzike sekugcina sithi Carling KO as Chiefs face tricky tie.
Asibuka Eswatini Observer, your leading headlines: Senate nominations, new faces, more males as soldier gets most nominations. Vetting process already started. Kanye in a vetting process already started. Voting tomorrow.
Kanzike sitawubuka temidlalo khona Eswatini Observer Sihlangu will keep you on your toes. Kusho cricket advises bafana what to expect. Ngalokunye uphinza ukuthi ke Percy Tau Soleng out of clash. Pupu is to earn 15,000 emalangeni kuma Bulls la sasayine khona ke. Kanzike sithebe crash out of Kosafa champs.
As we saw in the Daily News this Wednesday morning, Letamba Mbili, 35 Senate hopefuls vying for 10 seats and 12 women have been nominated. As looking at Letamba Mbili, Health Ministry observes surge on COVID-19 cases.
Kutemidlalo Eswatini Daily News, Caleb's future uncertain at birth. Ngwenya is leaving on borrowed time after indicating he's unhappy with interference from top officials. Kanzike Figueiredo is doubtful for Bafana clash. On the international front, Chelsea legend Eden Hazard retires at age 32.
All right, 6 minutes after 6, we're starting to start in Swati.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letenteka ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide emagama lacosheme letitsembekile letitsintsa tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakazo siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba loutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Ingonyamasa ephathise eParliament eli-12 ukuthi ihambise imbili intuthuko nekuthula bangakhohlwa nekubuyela emimangweni kuso sive lesibakhethile. Lokhu kuvetwe ngumcondzisi wetinkhulumo eParliament Jabulani Mabuza ngesikhathi indlu yabayesikhulu ihlala kwekucala ngalesibili.
Kulandela kukhethwa kwakhe speaker lomusha wayeParliament yeli-12 evikini eliphelile ngalesihlanu ubeseke uyahamba uqhutshwa ngiyo iParliament. Yena Jabulani Mabuza waya kuyo ingonyama silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu waya kuyobusiswa ahamba nalo lisekela lakhe emadala Mhlanga. Ngalesibili ke labahlonishwa lababili babese bahlala kwekucala khona endini kanzi ngaphambi kokuthi ahlale esihlalweni sakhe speaker lomusha noma umcondzisi lomusha ubese uthola Donati Busiso wathola wona emagama ekukhuthata kuye speaker weParliament yeli-11 yena Petros Mavimbela.
Sikufisela inhlanhla usawusebenta nekusho lokuthi kuyasebenteka kwakho nje ngiyajabula ukuthi ngiyathi usekuyindvodza lematiko uNkulunkulu ngaphandle kwaNkulunkulu kude la singafika khona sithi congratulations siyabonga 5 years utamchuba Nkosi Busisi.
Nasikhula ukuthi ne Mavimbela safunza ukuthi indlela ibutwa kulabasembili. Ulijaha nawe ngekuhlonishwa sive nekuhlonishwa ngemakhosi lebe ubambe lo msebenzi kuleminyaka lesihlanu lesisuka kuyo wasebenta kwaze kwabala sikubone kuhleke kokuthi kungaba kuhle sendele doti ingcoco.
Ubeseke uyahlala umcondzisi lomusha wadota inkulumo khona eParliament endlini yabayesikhulu Jabulani Mabuza wase uthulela yona indlu lehloniphekile ukuthi engabe bahambe njani khona kuyobona sona silo lapho bebeyobusiswa khona ngalokuphelele wase wendlulisa wona emavi aso silo khona endlini.
Sabusiseka ke sonke speaker na deputy wakhe yacizelela ke ingonyama ngendzaba yentuthuko eveni siyakhumbula ke sonke ikhuluma ngendzaba ya first world ukuthi live leMaswati alibalelwe emaveni lathuthukile cizelele ke ukuthi ungathi tinfungo tingachubeka timbambise kuloko sive site ukhona kuthuthuka level to ukhona kuphila nenhlala kahle eMaswati ibe ngile kahle.
Emalunga endlu yabayesikhulu kufaka ekhathi lizinyane umfana Nkosi Lindani bambongele ke yena umcondzisi lomusha wadota inkulumo bathi asebenze ngebucotho base babonga wona emavi ayo ingonyama ngikucondzisa yona indlu lehloniphekile ukuthi kule minyaka lesihlanu letako kubheke ukuthi basebenze kanjani babuka yona tindzaba tentuthuko phela yalo live laseSwatini nayo imimango yelive lapho emalunga achamuka khona.
Bakangwane ke speaker bakhulume lokunyende bakangwane being ingonyama na indlovukazi kiyo imiyalo lekufuna speaker bakanye na deputy lekufuna bahambe ngayo indlela yokuthi iParliament kuconductwa kanjani lokhu kwenteka kanjani leyo miyalo leyo ivakele itolo.
Siyethemba sinesiciniseko futhi sekuthi lendlu le utayihola njengamntu waNkulunkulu, uphindze uyihole njengeliswati, uphindze uyihole ngebucotfo lobu-beyond.
Iphalamende kubheke ukuthi-ke bese iyabancwadzisa labahlonishwa labasha ngayo indlela yokusebenta noma inchubo yayo iphalamende yelive laseSwatini kufaka ekhathi umthethosisekelo welive nawo ema-standing orders ayo indlu yabayesikhulu. Edinzabende eSwatini TV, ubika Samkelisiwe Khoza naSikhumbuzo Dlamini ephalamende.
Sibonza senhlangano yesicalo Foundation lezinyane isicalo selivule tindlu letimbili etakhiwe ngilenhlangano itakhela bogogo lababili endzabeni yasesicolini ngaphansi kwenkhundla yasemanzini North. Umcimbi wokuvulwa kwaletindlu uhambisene nekuthi uMfanenkhosi aphe bogogo nabomkhulu nebantwana bendlunkulu kudla nempahla leyahlukene.
Gogo wekuqala lomukele indlu kuye uMfanenkhosi kube ngugogo Thokonzimanze loneminyaka lengama-72 lophocolelwe simo ukuthi ahlale kunendlu naye lebese engayigcina ibange netingoti. Lokunye-ke lokumangalisako ukuthi gogo bekahlala lapha nebatukulu bakhe labalishumi. Kodwa lomhla njengoba sikhuluma impilo yakhe seyiguqukile njengoba elizinyane lembube uMfanenkhosi isicalo selimfake kunayi indlu lenshashana. Lobe kumkhathata kakhulu gogo Nzimanze bekuthi bekangahle yangenelwe natinyoka ikakhulu ngoba indzawo lahlala kiyo igagwe ngumena. Kuhlala nebatukulu labalishumi kuphawula bolukhuni njengoba sekude nemandla ukuthi angatoha. Ngiko-ke abonge wagangatha kuMfanenkhosi.
Kepha uMfanenkhosi ngiyambonga kakhulu lokuthi usisitile Nkosi yami. Lengakusho nje ungathi uNkulunkulu angamsita amanzi silethe insuku takhe tokuphila. Ngoba lo msebenzi la wendako awusuki kuye. Kepha usuka kuNkulunkulu.
uMfanenkhosi wakhe lena gogo emadlamini lobeka neminyaka lengama-63. Ngenhlanhla lembi ubese uyashiya emhlabeni seyiphela indlu yakhe washiya nebatukulu labasithupha lebekade abanakekela. Indlu yakhe yemukelwe ngumusa wakhe Petros Maziya.
Sithanda kubonga kakhulu kuMfanenkhosi naso sonke isizwe lesilekelele kulesipho labasendele sona. Asathi ukuthi singabonga sithini kodwa nje sibonga kakhulu kuMfanenkhosi.
Siyeva mcanco ukuthi make lebe makhela ubese sowuthathwa nguNkulunkulu. Ingabe bekangasijabulela kangakanani lesakhiwo?
Ngiyethemba bengasijabulela kakhulu ngoba into vele bekayidinge kakhulu. Kufa ke lokunga-applyelwa siva buhlungu kodwa nje siyethemba la khona ulale ngekuthula. Uyasibona futhi nesakhiwo sakhe.
uMfanenkhosi uqhubekele emcimbini lelapho lenhlangano ithokomalisethe inhlitiyo tesive sasesicelweni lesingetulu kwama-500 ngempahla leyahlukahlukene. Bogogo nabomkhulu bantwana bendlunkulu nesive lesikhubatekile sithole tingubo kudla kwetinhlobo letahlukahlukene timpahla tekugqoka kufaka ekhatsi ticatfulo netincolwa tekuhamba pheceleti wheelchairs. Lo nyaka lenhlangano seyihlanganise iminyaka lengama-21 kusukela yaqala kuguqula timpilo tesive. uMfanenkhosi wekute indlela lahambe ngayo emhlabeni gogo emadlamini.
Singakefiki-ke bekunene bekusakhiwa khona lapha sajabha kakhulu kuva ukuthi awu lapha besithi nalo munye gogo lebeka khona vele lapha endzaweni sesiva letibhlungu ngaye ukuthi awu sowulimele ngetindlela letitsite letingasito futhi naletisemthethweni ukuthi ngawulimele ngato kusivise ebhlungu kakhulu ke lokho ukuthi awu singathi umuntu omdzala simakhela nje mase kusele emalanga lamabili lamathathu sekuba khona amajabhane lasavela ganga ngaye amgilisa tika kwabe sekubona ukuthi awu sesitawuqhubeka kona siyakhe indlu yagogo.
uMfanenkhosi ubese wetfulela sive tipho lebekatiphethe wethembisa nokuthi lenhlangano yesicalo Foundation itawugcine seyisita nebantfwana labakhubatekile.
Lesiphinze kwaba netipho letinye lesitiphathako ukuthi awu bogogo bakhona ukuthi bamane bambathe enzambama nasekuhlwile ukuthi bakhona ukuphumula kahle. Sisecophelelweni lelikhulu ke ukuthi ke nabo ke bantwana lekwati ukuthi baphila ngama disabilities ngekukhubateka lokuthide simane sikhona ukubona lihlelo ukuthi yini lesingakhona ukuthi sibendele kona bona ngoba lamhla sikakhona lokuthi sihlanganise kahle tonke inombolo kepha ke ifoundation isakubuketa lokho siyethemba ukuthi ekuhambeni kwesikhathi kutathi noma sekuhlangene nako bese sesibize sesiyayibuyisa lokho program leyo lesiyilungisako yabo ukuthi bamane bakhona nabo ukuthola lisido bekunene.
Lokhulumele indlunkulu yasemasundweni Sigodvo Motha uba ngomfana Nkosi ngelusito lalumikise kulendzawo yasesicelweni wathi kufika kwakhe kube lithuba lokuthi abone netinsayeya lesive sibhekana nato.
Mfana Nkosi sibulala emabhodlela kubuka thina emphakathini wasemasundweni kepha phela vele bongabuka phe ngingenu la sikhulusa lana uvame isho inkosi uthi sikhulusa la ngiyo iphinze futhi ithi indvuna yala engumgijimi so sine nje silibandla uta kwesigodlo sibone bulukhuni lesiphila andabona kuyasihambisha ngoba uniphinze uyoba linxusa lethu enkosini njengoba ubonile nje letalukati lo tichastile letulu ubonile ukuthi ticanca indzaba kuyofika khona lapho tiya khona ubonile lo mgwanqo lo buka sithi connecting road leyo uyophuma emakholweni.
Umphathi wesigodi sakaManzini umfana Nkosi Gija ukhuthathe labo labathole tipha kumfana Nkosi ukuthi bakhumbule nalabanye labeswele embili. Lubeka kwedindzabeni ngisandile Makhanya esicelweni.
Sive sasesicelweni ngaphansi kwenkundla yaseManzini North sesibonga isilo samhlaba nendlovukazi Mhlekazi ngekukhulisa emazinyane ngetimfundiso letiwende ukuthi abe lusito lolukhulu esiveni. Sive siphawule ngemsebenzi lemihle emazinyane ngesikhathi lezinyane lembube esicalo livula tindlu letimbili letakhele bogogo lababili kulendzawo.
Sive nesikhulumisene naso lapha endzaweni yasesicelweni kalogoba ngaphansi kwenkundla eManzini North sithumise kakhulu emakhosi elive ukuthi akugcini ngawo nje kuphela kunakekela sive kodwa lolo nyawo selithethwe nangiwe emazinyane esilo semhlaba bathumise kakhulu ke ukuthi lokhu labakubona kwenteka lo mhla lapha kungumphumela wetimfundiso tawo emakhosi elive.
Siyabonga kakhulu sisicelo siyamangala nje ukuthi isicelo saze sakhunjulwa. Siyayibonga inkosi lokuthi ikhulise abantwana sebacabanga lokuthi kunebantu la ngaphandle labaswele labadzingile labalambile labanetinkinga sibujabula nje lokuthi nalo lizinyane litowuvela libuke la ukuthi lendzawo indzawo lenjani.
Siyabonga kakhulu emakhosi kukhulisa emazinyane latawathi tinzanzane nebafelakati nabogogo. Sijabule kakhulu siyadumisa kakhulu ukuthi naso silo nendlovukazi asikhumbule Nkosi yami ngoba thina bogogo bantu babethu bashiyana labantwana balahlele hayi ukuthi kukhona ini bede kuthi imisebenzi sidumisa kakhulu nje.
Sibonga kakhulu emakhosi ethu siwathandza kakhulu siyabonga sasikhulisele emazinyane namhla asaphumile ayasibuka la ngaphandle sibogogo asikhona kuhamba sasala nebatukulu sesondla abatukulu siyabonga kakhulu emakhosini ethu akangwane.
Sinekujabula lokukhulu nasibona ukuthi sifukanyelwe ngoba lokhu kusikhombisa ukuthi live noma emakhosi ayasithandza ayasibonelela. Siyabonga kakhulu lesikubongako ukuthi sibone nokuthi siphila kanjani kuyasithokozisa kakhulu lokho asikalahleki siseveni lelifuthumele kakhulu shathi uNkulunkulu anganzisa konke laba kwentaba.
Yona ke inhlangano lokusicalo foundation ithi tawuchubeka nekusita sive tindzaweni letahlukahlukene khona lapha even Eswatini. Lobeka kwedindzabeni ngisandile Makhanya esicelweni kalogoba phasi kwenkundla iManzini North.
Live leSwatini selitibophelele ngalokuphelele ezivumelwaneni semave laseNingizimu Afrika ngokuthi nalo litawudlala indima yalo kucetha ukuhlukubetana ngetebulili. Akhuluma emhlanganweni walamave eveni leNingizimu Afrika nakusukunyiswa ngokomthetho luhlelo lweminyaka lesihlanu lokulwa nalo luhlobo lokuhlukubetana mabhalane lomkhulu ehhovisini leliphinandvunankulu Melusi Masuku. Uthi leSwatini litawuchubeka licinise tinhlelo talo tekulwa nekuhlukubetana kwalo lonke lihlobo.
Live leSwatini, Lesotho, Botswana, Namibia, iNingizimu Afrika kanye neleZambia athi lolu hlelo lolwatiwa ngele-Spotlight Initiative lusukunyiswe ngemuva kwekubona kwekuthi kuhlukubetana ngetebulili kakhulu kumamfombatana kulamave kukhula ngelizinga lelisetulu. Lubuke emahhovisi ka-United Nations Population Fund kuleli Margaret Twala Dembe uthi baphindze bahlangana nalabo labatabesekela ngetimali.
Ukhanza ukuthi kudzingeka 96.8 million. Kodwa-ke le mali lena itawuhlukaniswa ngalamave osithupha. Kangwane nje ngenteka sithole ngetulu kancane kwa-10 million for the program lecala nga-2024 irane for 5 years.
Umcondzisi wakakwakha indvodza Sonic Dlamini uthi nabo bayayidlala indima yabo kulwa nekuhlukubetana ngetebulili.
Singikwakha indvodza siphinza sikhulumise ke sinetindzaba ukuthi sikhathi lesiningi kuba bantfu labaduna labahambisa impilo budlangudlangu. Sibuye thina tinhlelo ukuthi singabakhulumisa njani labantu labaduna ukuthi bangadlala ichaza lilingilo lekuthi bavikele bodzadzewabo, bavikele abafati babo, bavikele kanye nensha ikakhulu emantombazane ukuthi ingahlukubeteki ngekwelicasi iphindze ingashaywa.
Bengameli wenhlangano yebantfu labakhubatekile kuleli Bongani Magama uthi kusekuningi lefanele kwendiwe kuvikela kuhlukubeteka kwebantfu labakhubatekile kuleli.
Siyabonga kakhulu lokho ukuthi vele abantu labakhubatekile bafakwe etindzabeni tayo iGBV kwatise kokuthi njengebantfu nabo babanato tinsayeya letifaka khatsi kuhlukubeteka ngato telicansi nangaletinye ke tindlela lekuhlukubeteka ngato bantfu kungaba bomake kungaba bantfwana.
Inhlangano yakamhlaba ithi kumave akaSADC 33% wabomake sebake bahlukunyetwa bantfu labathandzana nabo kanti 20% bahlukunyetwe ngalendlela esikhatsini lesingangeminyaka lesengcile. Lenhlangano ithi lokhu kunemthelela lomubi kuyo indlala kahle yesive kukhula kwemnotfo kanye nentfutfuko kubala kulokunye. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Nelisiwendla ngamandla nginavuma inkosi Nzinisa eMbabane.
Bodokotela belive leSouth Korea bakuleli kutoletha lusito lwetemphilo eMaswatini. Labodokotela batawugcila kakhulu kulabanenkinga yesikhumba emathumbu nemaphaphu. Labodokotela bakanekisa esibhedlela lesikhulu eMbabane nase-RFM Kamanzini.
Labodokotela batawuba lapha eSwatini kute kube ngolesihlanu kuleli viki kanti ngekusho kwemcondzisi wetempilo Dr. Velepi Okelo seveleke lidze line lalababhalisele lonake lolusito.
Kulaba labatohlola emathumbu sekuvele kunelist le preparishiwe ngoba abantu lebo ukhanza ukuthi bayanza overtime so lobamile kubhotsholwa so batokusuka nje namhla batabe babhotsholwa ke lapha eMbabane labanye batawupopolelwa eNazarene. Sinayo ke le mishina labasayibuka ukuthi isebenza kahle yini le mishina yepopola lengekhathi emathunjini. Nabodokotela bethu batawusebenzisa nalama specialists ethu la khona ukuthi basidane ukuthi kubhotsholwa njani nawupopola ngalomshini. So short nje kunekuthi basichushise basifundisele kabanti ngalendzaba yepopola lengekhathi. Kuloko wesikhumba ke batawusebenzisana nalo specialist wethu wesikhumba lokhona eMbabane. Nakhona kuyaboniswana nje ukuthi wona ubona indwele nje yindonyo longakusebenzisa. Siyathi ukuthi tifo tesikhumba nato tihleti bayinkinga tingalapheki. So batawusitana ukuthi bachushisane ukuthi thina eveni lethu nasibona indwele nje esikhunjeni siyabe sesenda nawo kuze nesive semaswati sitositakala kuleli hlangothi letifo tesikhumba.
Sive kabhekeki ukuthi sibhadale kuthola lolusito lwalobodokotela njengoba ngenhlangano yabo base-South Korea lapha eSwatini nebudlelwano bahulumende wakuleli ngekho lokwente ukuthi bade bafike lapha. Etindzabeni ngengiyani Msibinge naSimuva Shongwe eMbabane.
Kutemidlalo likhethelo lesive sithebe samhlekazi siphumile endzebeni yeCOSAFA yabomake yalonyaka kulandzela kukhala phansi kubanyana banyana ngemagoli lamathatfu ecandzeni. Ibanyana banyana nayo noma ingcwebe lomdlalo kodwa nayo iphumile kulendzebe lokusho ukuthi ngaphansi kwa Group A live laMalawi ngilo lodvwana litawuchubekela esigabeni sama-semifinals alendzebe.
Ikhethelo lesive labomake sithebe samhlekazi sithola ngetulu nebanyana banyana ngaphasi kwa Group A endzebeni yeCOSAFA yabomake yalonyaka ebanjelwe eveni laseNingizimu Afrika. Ibanyana banyana ivele yakhomba kuba nemandla esigabeni sekucala ngesikhathi ithuba elihle Shamas athola ligoli lekucala ngemuva komzuzu lesithupha umdlalo udlaliwe. Ubuyile futhi yena Shamas ngemuva komzuzu lelishumi wathola lesibili isigaba sekucala saphela ibanyana banyana ihamba embili ngamagoli amabili ecandzeni. Shamas ubuyile esigabeni sesibili ngemuva komzuzu lelishumi isigaba sesibili sidlaliwe wathola lesithathu umdlalo waphela ibanyana banyana ihamba embili ngamagoli amathathu ecandzeni. Zwelibanzi Khoza locishisha sona sithebe samhlekazi uchazile ukuthi noma baphumile kulendzebe kodwa kunyenti labakufundzile.
Few have been here before, but we learned. Because we never lose, but we learn as a team. But we'll do better going forward in the next edition. We considered soft goals. You can't do that against a team from the World Cup.
Unfortunately, we couldn't go beyond the group stages, but if you don't win your first game, it sets you back. But then again, it all started from way back, when we should have come in earlier, but we did not. And I take my hat off to the players and, for the effort that they put in. I'm sad and disappointed for them, but they showed today, that the future is bright.
Kulomnye umdlalo ngaphasi kwa Group A iMalawi ishaye iMadagascar ngamagoli amathathu kulinye lokusho ukuthi iMalawi ngiyo lechubekele esigabeni sama-semifinals alendzebe. Lubikile umsakazi Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanti umbiko uhlanganiswa nguFabrice Msonera titfombe etfolakale kuCOSAFA TV.
28 minutes after 6 sitipesa lapho tindzaba tetfu deswati yasibahlelo temakethe nasibuya sifisa ukuthi abakhulumisana na senior journalist LinkedIn kule.
Uyezwana uthokandaba emagumbamane omhlaba ngemandla sibaya esigodlweni elitsitsini mhlati ngemashumi lamabili nakuthathu imbala usho njalo ke Mswazi omnyama kulabaluthuli ulodvunganzaba wasembelebeleni ulodvunganzaba wasemambondweni uduma phasi bakuzwe ngezingcingo msakandaba bakuzwa ngezingcingo bayakubalekela bayethe wena waphakathi.
31 minutes after 6 ngwele mhla siphindze sikwamukele ehlelweni malangeni lasiphohlongo lendlulile mhla 13 kulenyanga lesetulu ingcweti yetemthetho imemetele emagama lalishumi emalunga eParliamente labulawa silo semhlaba ekubeni abenge emalunga eParliamente endlini yabayisikhulu kanti ke kuthe mhla tisithupha kulesetulu emalangeni lasithupha lendlulile abese sekayafunga emalunga eParliamente onke endlini yabayisikhulu ngekusa kwangalesibili itolo sitfolele liphuthumako kumabhalane weParliamente Benedict Xaba lokhokhe isimemetelo sekuchubeka kwemsebenzi weParliamente lochubekile nangemambala ngalesibili mhla 10 kulesetulu kulandzela ukuthi ume ngalesihlanu evikini leliphelile kanti ke emalunga eParliamente lahloniphekile adiswe ukuthi akabe seParliamente kuyawuncoma timphunga solo nje sibuka yona iformation of Parliament sine senior journalist LinkedIn kule ngokwabane it's very perfect ukuthi when they took the oath of allegiance ngwele wawusakada lolo hlelo lolo solo nje sihamba ngato letigaba sifuna kubuka ukuthi nakwakhiwa leParliamente you like to say ukuthi akwendiwa nje lokhu ngekucabanga kwemuntu this is all articulated ku constitution yelive asingene esigabeni selusuku lwayitolo sibonile nangemambala House of Assembly ifika ngalesikhathi lesishiwo ngclek eParliament sobonile umsebenzi 35 Senate hopefuls 35 sifuna kuphume abantu labalishumi kuphela uthini umthetho kulesigaba lesesikuso nje sisafoma yona iParliament
sasikuvusele sifiso sivusele maswati namhla ekseni utakhumbula le ukuthi evikini leliphelile sayichaza indzaba bese igcile kakhulu ku section 94 lokhuluma ngale legislature lethu yakhumbula ukuthi umthetho uyaveta le ukuthi iParliament yeseswatini yawuba netindlu letimbili going to be the lower chamber lekungile House of Assembly lesesisinyalo umsebenzi wakhona uphelele bese ke sekuba the upper chamber lesekungile Senate ngilala sesikhona khona ke manje ku section 94 ukuthi yini le Senate umthetho sisekelo uyaveta siselo ukuthi iyawuthi indlu yabayisikhulu nayihlala elangeni layo lokuqala ibe nalomsebenzi wenda labo speaker nabo deputy speaker like we've seen ibese seyabitwa ke nayitolo kutheni nayite itawunominator lo mthetho ke uvele uyavuma lokho ukuthi iyawunominator noma ngithi tagcina ikhethe 10 wema senators half of whom are expected to be females at least yes at least bese ingonyama emhlaba ibulala 20 lena khona it is expected to be at least babe half wakhona kube bomake endiwe ke lama nominations itolo indiwa indaba yesikhulu iba nominated laba bomake yaba nominator laba bobabe I think that's the beginning sesakhanyalo le upper chamber akhumbula iParliament ishaya umthetho ikanye nengonyama ngoko lo ukuthi ingosi khwale babulala ke assembly khwale babulala ke senate sila kulesigaba leso ke manje
12 women nominated you just said ukuthi umthetho sisekelo at least half should be women kulo 10 where is that 10
yes
nasithi at least half sisho ukuthi not less than 5 am I correct nasithi nje sihlatiya ulimi lwesingisi nyalo singena kashaca ekuhlatiyeni ulimi lwesingisi at least half not less than 5 should be women kulo 10
sikaze nje
kulo 12 shothi kufuna kuphume 5
kufuna kuphume 5 nangale kulabo babe laba nominatiwe kufuna kuphume 5
okay
bahambe bayoba timbunga itaseke ingosi seyagcwalisa ke sesiniketa ke lo 20
okay I want you to give me a few seconds ngiyafuna lokuvula isimemetelo sa collect to Parliament sayitolo kukhale sikushilo lengibone ngathi akugendeki esukwini la itolo lesimemetelo besiphuthuma siphume ekseni articulate a few things lokunye kwako bekuthi ithathi ngendeka le nomination ngathi bekugadzekile according to the statement ekutheni lo 10 bese ya select but indlela singayiboni yenteka itolo leyo for a valid reason lencela ukuthi usichazele yona makobani
umthetho wesifiso nasikhuluma ngale formation of the Parliament nasehla nje ngalama sections onke from the 94 yofika ku 101 uyachaza ukuthi who qualifies
okay
ukuthi abe ngisenator
it's very important
that is very key singibani qualifier ngokusenate utakhumbula ukuthi kuphinze kube nemthetho lekuthiwa i-Senate Elections Act number 7 of 2013 lo weluswe iBC lo chaza ukuthi umuntu lo shaywe elikhethweni akugamele ukuthi alingenele elikhetho lekuyoba imphunga letinye tetinto leto lekubene nato sithi consider sifiso neke ukuthi ke kubheke ukuthi bese phela bayavethwa labantu labanominatwa le process iyafanana nanaya lesibuya kuyo nasikhethe amalungu eParliament ke ukuthi nathi siyanominate emiphakathini yethu sithi singanominate bese ke libandla la IBC ngikubambisana nalelibambisana nabo nasindele indzaba take vetting bese bayavetha labantu ukuthi ingabe vele bavumelekile ukuthi bangalungenela lolu khetho kwenza bade temthelo nato tonke nje indzaba lebatibukako emaphoyisa yabuka phela athi dzingatandla tibone isitandla takho akusito letingcolile so le process ito le bemicabanga ukuthi nyalo elangeni lanamuhla nje it gives le manye ma stakeholders latsenzeka kule ndzaba njengabo SRA ngiyabekisa lokuthi ke bakuhlolo lo ukuthi ngabe labantu bonke labo nominatiwe bayayimitha ile criteria ndzabeni temthelo bemenjani nakuletinye ke letikhona tingcingwana letivetwa ngumthetho so nje ngicabanga ukuthi le process le number 2 akhona ngilowa le vetting
okay
bekudzingekile lo after the nomination kufanele kuhanjwe kuyovetwa
Lingithini ngiyafuna singene ke nyalo ku overall angithini indlu nje yetimphunga naseyiphelele ukuthi bana ngakho emalunga siyathi ukuthi kunalabo labalishumi labatawukhetha indlu yaba esikhulu sekunalo 20 lotawukhonjwa silo semhlaba I do believe I stand to be corrected there engabe leso sigaba leso sibheke ukuthi silandzele lesi and kutawusekwendekana emvalo
njoba nje sisitolo bekungile nomination sibhekile ukuthi nami nangithi ngiyahogela ngiyeva lo ukuthi itaphinze ihambe yohlala indlu probably langeni lakusasa ihlale ihambe yokhetha lo 10 ngoba lo mthetho esisekele uthi the House of Senate shall consist of not more than 31 members
okay
bese ke 10 uqhamuka ku House of Assembly ngiloko ke lesikhona khona nyalo tamletha ihouse sikhathelo simlethe iHouse of Assembly lo 10 wayo langeni lakusasa kulaba leba nominate yitolo uthatsi ke ngonyama nanayo imthetho esisekele uthi nase isebenzisa discretion yayo after i consultations with emabandla lafanele bese ke seyamenyetelwa lo 20 letawubulawa ngemakhosi ukuthi sihambe ke kuyagcwalisa isenate itabe seyiphelele ke la
naye ke lenye le interesting lentini zaba ya mengameli wendle timbunga Senate of the President of the Senate sibonile ngale endlini yetimphunga yaba esikhulu sorry sibonile Jabulani Mabuza bamvotele by landslide victory ushaya Madala Mhlanga who then became his eventual immediate angithi nje vice mabo sisikatheni ngalana ka Senate ngoba I do remember ukuthi we had Pastor Lindiwe who was the president of the Senate ku 11th Parliament are we expecting ukuthi the nomination and this election of the eventual president of the Senate endeke nasebaphelele babong 30 noma batawendeka in the interim of things njengoba njalo nje kusesebukwelo 10
lo mthetho sifisa uphindze uchazele ukuthi njengoba like nangale House of Assembly I think it's section 94 lo chaza le usiyathi indlu etimbunga nayihlala ku first city umsebenzi ekubheka ukuthi wende kukhetha Senate President iphindze lendlu ikhethe na deputy Senate President
section
100 yes sisoko lokubese sekuyendeka ke ngilo ukuthi lo iyafanana le process lo Senate President imkhetha lendlu from within lamalunga lalangakhatsi endlini noma ingamlanza aqhamuke ngaphandle depending ke ukuthi uyayimitha ile criteria lebese status iyavela ku 101 leyo ukuthi experience parliamentary experience utakhona ukuthi indlu ayiconzise just like le chaza ngale nabakhetha speaker lesachaza the other day it's going to be the same process nangala bangamlanza ngaphandle noma batavele bamkhethe la ngakhathi nasebaphelele bonke on their first sitting
okay no I think sasicishe sinaso sithombe ukuthi indlu itawuphelela kanjani uhlala ukhuluma indzaba yokuthi ke batawuthi bangaphelela kufuna ke bese sebangena endlini sigaba leso lesigathe ukuthi naso kuna sendeke masinyana
yes ngicabanga sikuqale le process that unfold so quickly because I can bet ukuthi by Thursday by end of business on Thursday angisho kanjani
Thursday lo akusasa
Sizabe sinaye lo 10 we assembly. Sizabe siyagatha ukuthi lo 20 emakhosi umenyetelwa nini kuthunywa kwa AG kusathi umemetela lo 20 ethamuke enkosini. Bese ke iyahlala indlu iyahlala timpunga nakuhlala isikhethela Senate President na Deputy Senate President. But not Deputy Senate President ke sifiso imehlongo lo ukuthi umuntu lokufune abe la ngakhathi akalandwa ngaphandle. It is only the Senate President lebangamlandza ngaphandle depending on the experience yakhe lanayo.
Lincoln, I want to read section 94 under composition of Parliament Constitution. Bese ngifunza kuna part A na part B. Part A, the senators appointed in terms of subsection 3 shall be persons who, in the opinion of the king, are able, by reason of their special knowledge or practical experience, to represent economic, 1, social, 2, 3, cultural or traditional or marginalized interest not already adequately represented in Parliament, or B, are by reason of their particular merit able to contribute substantially to the good government and progressive development of Eswatini. Itolo speaker uvelile Ndzabeni. In fact nalamuhla kusenje siyamveta Jabulani Mabuza uqhawulana na former speaker Petros Mavimbela. Uyasho Petros uthi ngiyajabula ukuthi indvodza lengale siyadinga ukuthi 1 nasikhuluma ngendzaba dabo merit, it does have the wealth of experience lemqualify kulolo hlangothi. But sengibukana nathi letinye tinhlangothi letivetwa i-constitution, economic, you're able to represent economically, socially, culturally or traditionally, or rather marginalized interests not already adequately represented in Parliament. Slatiyele
so ngakubisela angubisele kule Parliament lesithamuka kuyo le the 11th Parliament. Pinze sinake lo yomthetho lo ukuthi inkosi lo mthetho osekele uyiniketa lamandla ukuthi ku discretion yayo. Ngifuna ulidwebele ligama.
Ku
discretion yayo inkosi after I consultation ne mabandla lathi ya appointa lo 20 senators. Now siyayibuka ke nase inkosi appointile asende reference ku 11th Parliament. Bokhanza ukuthi bakhona abo babeboshifu. Lo shows the cultural aspect yamitheka lapho.
Okay.
Inkosi yaphinze appointa senator lebeka minister for finance. Senator beka minister for commerce.
Yes.
Ngicabanga ukuthi uyaphenduleka ke to the economics. Yeah. Kube khona nabo make sifiso liyangibalekela lebito la lemphunga lebeyikhona itolo. But beka khona nasilale emhlakado emoya nje kulethi ndzaba ngasita semsamo yini. Bekahle avela lapho.
Beka imphunga.
Yes, beka imphunga.
Yes.
Imphunga Silver Mthetho nanayo beyikhona lapho. Lokho ukuthi ngithi ke yamitheka nanaye ekutawubukela the marginalized interest not represented in Parliament. Yabukeka lapho nawubuka inzima lebayidlalile nje ku society as a whole.
Yes. So phinze lapho kumitheka nalo social, I believe.
Nalo social uyamitheka. Yes, uqinisile uyamitheka nalo social. So ngithi ke nanyana that's what probably we can expect ukuthi inkosi ekuhlakanipheni kwayo kujuleni kwayo dinto le tibukako le nayibulala timpunga. Ngoba vele nawuthi uyabuka lama functions eSenate ayithinza nalendzaba ye culture ekuthenini kunemithetho letakwenza ukuthi timpunga ngegunyatha ngomthetho osisekelo kufanele tihlahlele emehlo angikhohlwa nakwendiwa nakuqolwa iSODV. If we didn't have timpunga le tabekwa ngeyingonyama le tinjula buqopha ngisenzele igama le uyakhanza ukuthi lo mthetho ngabe mhlambe kukhona la live walibeka kabi khona but ngalokho sibekunetimbunga telusile tawuqola kahle lo mthetho abe nginaki lo ngiko namuhla lo SODV there were certain sections lebeka very contentious at that time and timbunga betvele timile ti strong ukuthi ekuthini lokho ngeke kuze kuvumeleke.
Indeed. LinkedIn subsection 2 of section 94, we've touched on it briefly, but ngifuna singene kuko because siphinza sibe signatory to mhlabuhlangene naye lonemthetho thide lo uthelela la kunangomsebenzi lesikuwo. Uthi 10 senators, at least half of whom shall be female, shall be elected by the members of the House in such a manner as may be prescribed by or under any law at their first meeting, so as to represent a cross-section of the Swazi society. We saw 8 elects under our nasikhetha nje sisibe semaswati. We saw it elangeni layitolo kulaba laba nominatiwe lokufuna kuphume khona 5. Asithi mabobu nasishaye maths 8 plus 5 wakaba 13, am I correct? Kufuna ukuthi le representation asibali total nyari yemalungu eParliament nje indla sasithi iphelele. Nayiphelele mabomu kuba ngu90 bani ngithini? 99. What's 30% of 99? Around 30. Correct. Siyavumelana kulo. Sibuka ukuthi nyalo iHouse of Assembly na kulaba labangithenda bathi awukhethwa iHouse of Assembly nalaba ke laba House of Assembly bathi awakha 13. Nasithi 30 minus 13 sithola inombolo letsite lapho. Lesingasho ukuthi negative balance leyo lesithi nasifuna lo 30% abe full representation kufuneka ukuthi igcwaliseke leyo negative balance leyo. Ingagcwaliseka probably kulo 20 lesimgatsile njengoba iconstitution isho ukuthi inkosi itawuse seyikhomba labangu 20. Probably loyo. But asasibuke lo ukuthi negative balance from 30 minus 13 siyaphi lapho.
Siso angikuphendule nje kanje. Indlu naseyiphelele yonke. Kuyawubukakala usithini isibalo sabo make ngakhathi endlini.
Yes.
Then ikhona iprovision yokuthi nasingamithi lo 30%.
Yes.
Siyawenda
Yes.
sikwendile Parliament lesibiya kulo. Besingamithi 30%. Lo mthetho ke kwanyalo uzivumela lo ukuthi iHouse of Assembly yawuse elector munye make ngesifundza yosina 40 ifundza yasi elector munye to represent kungeda sibalo sabo make ngakhathi endlini. And again ke sifiso kumele ukuthi nathi nje uyabuka ema Parliament ecishe lamaningi ala Africa nanawo asenensaya yalenkulu nasikhulumela lesibalo salabo ma. But at least in our legislation we have a provision, let's say na iParliament ingamithi 30%. This is what we are going to do. Kungeda sibalo salabo ma.
LinkedIn, you don't just make a good journalist, but you also make a good politician. Ngiyafuna ukuthi 13 plus 4 mabom.
Phuma la tembulwe.
No, angiphumi. Ngifuna ngiyakule level lo show.
Okay.
Lo 13 plus 4 assistants elected lo 4 from every region. That makes 17. Already we are over 50% of 30%. Right. We are doing well as a country. Njengoba uveta ukuthi compared to other economies, compared to other countries that haven't still met the quota at 30%. I think for us, from where we are, from lesikubonile eLkhetfeni na lesikubonile iTolo, singasho ukuthi let nombolo tethu they are looking very good, and we don't know ukuthi kusetawenze kani ngoba umsebenzi usengakapheli. I just wanted to bengifuna sihighlight lokho sitawukhona appreciate because probably we'll appreciate ukuthi vele lesigaba lesesikuso we have done a very good job in terms of representation.
Ngichaza ngale tibalo siso nekuthi ke lokunye lesingahighlight ngalo ukuthi kune nga 2018 November 2018 I full bench of the High Court be kuna Judge Mamsi, kuna Judge Fagutse sengikhohla na Maxine Langwe bakhipha judgment bekuna Michael Masilela the current Lubamba MP bekadliwe likhethwa leso sikhathi a challenger section 5 we Senate Elections Act losina udliwe likhethwa ngale awusalingenele le senators.
Yes.
Ibese ke iSupreme Court yay overrule le judgment yokuzivele no wadliwa likhetho la Eswatini akwabheke lokuthi ungene ngala. So ke ngihighlight nje ukuthi lokunye lebekwe banominate labo lokunye utawendeka namhla ngalo ukuthi iBC uyabuka lo singabe labantu labanominatiwe lapha.
Hey abakadliwe.
1 balibhalisele ukhetho lesiqhamuka kulo. Number 2 kude lo wangena wakhala phansi kuma primary noma wakhala phansi kuma secondary lo bese namhla sokufuna ukuthola imbobo yokungena aye eSenate
Wow, it's very interesting. I can just imagine what it's like to be a hopeful. Ukuthi engcenye ungaba nalo liphupho lokuthi engcenye ngingene endlini yetimphunga. Kuthiwe nakuqala likhetho uthi hey kufuna ke kungalingenele likhetho ngoba lokho kutawuse sekuba kuyangivalela embili. But I was just looking at le titfombe LinkedIn nalamagama from all the hopefuls. Lo 35 I don't think I saw a face but ke emehlama ngibona ukuthi atawukhumbula kahle bese busy kakhulu lo 35 angamboni lebe kalingenele likhetho but you did say ukuthi basa vetting process we will await kubona ukuthi I vetting process isikhokhela ini. Appreciate your time again Makwabane, always lovely to kuthola ama insights akho lapha elihlelweni kwalo muhle sibahlola ethi mangethe masinyane sitawubuya sibuke isimo samgwaqo.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Bongo siyasiphinze sinamukele ehlelweni sibuke simo semgwaqo sida siphiwa ngu-Constable Ntombenhle Fakutse Mtolo. A very good morning. Engabe nisabuka nje imigwaqo elive nisasihlolela nisitfolela ini lomhla ekseni?
Ngikuvusele Ncumalo, ngivusele naye umbukeliwe Kusile Breakfast Show. Imigwaqo elive la Kangwane nanamhla ekseni sesiyihlolile singumbutho wembubene sive. Imigwaqo leminengi iyahambeka ikhona leyo lenethikabeto lokufaka ekhathi la kwakhiwa khona imigwaqo nemigwaqo leminye levaliwe nje bashayeli basasebenzisa leyo migwaqo abende isiqiniseko ukuthi bayasinaka timphawu letiphakanyisiwe kuleyo migwaqo kuze ukuthi baphephe basayisebenzisa. Sikunakako ke namuhla ekseni etindzaweni letinengi ikakhulukazi kuleto letiphakeme inkhungu ikhansa phasi siyakhuthaza nje kubo bashayeli la khona kunenkhungu khona ukuthi bawakhanyise emalambula amakhulu baphinde futhi litubane labo balincithise balandzelane nangetigaba letifanele kuze ukuthi bagweme kwenteka kwato tingoti nyalo ekseni. Emadolobha elivela Kangwane siwahlolile onke tibane temgwaqo tiyasebenza ngalokufanele nemigwaqo lengenela kuwo lamadolobha iyahambeka ngaphandle nje kwemigwaqo leminye leyilungiswako lokufaka ekhathi umgwaqo lo suka khona ekhathi edolobheni eMbabane uye khona kuManzana lapha ngase Central solo lapho timotolo atikhoni kuphambana kulandzela kona ukuthi umgwaqo loyo uyalungiswa. Umgwaqo lomkhulu losuka khona ehekeni laseNgwenya uye khona kaManzini lokufaka ekhathi Malagwane uyahambeka kude sisikabeto lesingakanani ngaphandle nje kwekuthi la kubongoyoyo nakhona kuMalagwane kunenkhungu. Khathi edolobheni kaManzini sihlolile nakhona linani letimoto nyalo ekseni lisesengabi ngilelo leliphakeme. Kepha ke nakhona edolobheni kaManzini siyabona abantu labanengi basebenzisa yona imigwaqo bayawela baphinde futhi bahambe khona eceleni nakhona lapho siyakhuthaza nje kubashayeli ukuthi noma linani letimoto nyalo lisengaphakame kakhulu kepha litubane akube ngilelo leligadekile kuze ukuthi sigweme kwenteka kwato tingoti. Lubombo luhloliwe nalo lesingakusho nje elibonjeni itindzawo letinengi letifaka ekhathi umgwaqo losuka khona boMalinza ubheke khona boMathetha siyanaka tinkhomo lapho emgwaqweni dinengi kakhulu bashayeli bakhuthaza ukuthi banake kungasiko khona kuphela kuto tonke nje tindzawo la kunetinkomo khona sithi asicaphelisiseni sibashayeli nyalo ekseni kwathi phela kuthina umshayeli usuke aphuthuma emsebenzini kanti nawo umgwaqo nangu unaso sikabeto lesifaka ekhathi yona imfuyo lubo ishiselo ihloliwe nayo besingakubika eshiselweni kungaba nguwo umgwaqo losuka khona lapha enhlangano kaMjuda uye khona ekhasini ukuthi lo mgwaqo loyo solo uvaliwe. Timotolo tiyakhuthatwa ukuthi tingene khona ekhasi edolobheni nathi ifuna kuhamba tibheke khona komhlosheni. Ngale kwaloko Mnguni naye umlaleli wemsakato imigwaqo elivela kaNgwane iyahambeka ngaphandle nje kwaleti esenkishito sigareto kungaba kusisela yena umbukeli lusuku loluhle naloluphephile basetawusebenzisa yona imigwaqo elivela kaNgwane.
Sibakhulu Mdolo kusipha leyo traffic update. Siyathemba usinanani ke nisachubeka nemsebenzi wenu nitawuba nolusuku loluhle ngwelo muhle. Asibahlole emarket sitawubuya sichubeka nehlelo.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
Nje imizuzu lemithathu futhi ishaya insimbi yesikhombisa lomhla ekseni siyavusela nalosanza kusivulela quite an interesting interview lobe naye na LinkedIn lapha sifisombuta imibuto velele balekile but ngaze ngile ndlela labeka iphendula ngayo
No, LinkedIn is a seasoned journalist and ngiyamnika nale wing yokuba politician because some of the questions ngithi you know what I want to see how he can be smart kuyiphendula kahle kakhulu. We really do appreciate ukuthi uyakhona lokuvuka ekseni atokhona kusipha lama insights la sipha. I think they are very important, particularly because the tindzaba letiphinze titsinze society kakhulu, the very fibers of society. Useta ukukhulumisa nje indzaba ye girl child lungelele. I think indzaba te girl child iphinze benalo luhlangosto ukuthi representation yamantombazane and the way they are treated. Now buka le parliament lesibuya kuyo ukuthi nanakhona representation yabo make iyakhulunyiswa. These are the kind of topics that we want to engage our audiences with. I'm also looking forward to go by interview
especially because I think siyibonile nje imibiko levetwa ngu-WHO nakhona United Nations tinkinga tihlangabetana nebantfana worldwide kungasiko nje even laseSwatini. I think labathi vetaka nje letiki ngiyo indzaba yama child marriages, indzaba yokuthi bamfana babe sebayakhulelwa ngesizatfu sokuthi kude kahle mhlambe letimfaneko ekhaya labangakhona ukuthi batiphilise ngathi sokhanze ukuthi sebawelela kutrephe ukuthi bathandzane nebamfla abadzala ama places. So sitatshileka kabanti nje leto kuva ukuthi ingabe vele mhlamba la eSwatini tinkinga letibhekene nebantfana bemantombazana ngutiphi tona. Sisakhuluma nje ngamantfombatana sifiso as well sisakadze ukuthi sikhulumisane nayo imbali bongiwe hlatshwako sitakhumbula ukuthi this weekend is the second leg of Umhlanga return. So yes, we're looking forward to those two interviews this morning.
Lungelele excitement yami setulu kakhulu ngemhlanga ngipakishe ngemsombuluko. In fact nje nganela kuva simemetelo nasikhokhwa ngiyo interim induna yembali bongiwe ekutheni nangi imhlanga wathi uyezwa na imbali eshiselweni akube njalo ngaseshiselweni mina Lungelele sangivele ngipakishile ngalesihlanu ngidobamba ibhasi yokuqala vele nje nangiphuma kakusile. It's going to be interesting indeed. Nabukana lokho ukuthi kutabe kontekani nje from Friday to Sunday. I think inesifundza saseshiselweni sijabula kakhulu ukuthi silo semhlaba sitabe sesifundzeni saseshiselweni. We are really excited. Nami nje ngibheke khona.
Yeah, all right. It's 7 o'clock. Let's take a break. Nasibuya sithatha indzaba desingisi.
Welcome back. Here are our English news. His Majesty King Mswati III has implored members of Parliament to work towards peace and the development of the country. The Speaker of the House, Jabulani Mabuza, has said this during the first sitting of the 12th Parliament on Tuesday.
Following the election of the Speaker of the 12th Parliament and his deputy last week Friday, and being blessed by their Majesties on Monday, the Speaker of the House, Jabulani Mabuza, had a meeting with the former Speaker, Petros Mavimbela.
Sikufisela inhlanhla usawusebenta nekusho lokuthi kuyasebenteka kwakho nje ngiyajabula lokuthi ngiyathi ukuyindodza lematiko uNkulunkulu ngaphandle kwaNkulunkulu kude la singafika khona sithi congratulations siyabonga 5 years utamqhuba inkosi ibusise
nasikhula kuthine Mavimbela safunza ukuthi indlela ibutwa kulabasembili ulijaha nawe ngekuhlonishwa sive nekuhlonishwa ngemakhosi lebe ubambe lo msebenzi kule minyaka lesihlanu lesisuka kuyo wasebenta kwaze kwaba la sikubone kuhleke kokuthi kungaba kuhle sendele doti ingcoco.
The Speaker then called the House of Assembly to its first sitting where he rendered His Majesty's message to the House.
Sabusiseka ke sonke Speaker na deputy wakhe yacizelela ke ingwenyama ngendzaba yentuthuko yeveni siyakhumbula ke sonke ikhuluma ngendzaba ya First World ukuthi live leMaswati alibalelwe emaveni lathuthukile cizelele ke ukuthi ungathi tintfungo tingachubeka timbambise kuloko sive site ukhona kuthuthuka live lito ukhona kuphila nenhlala kahle eMaswati ibe ngile kahle.
Members of the Honorable House of Assembly, including His Royal Highness Prince Lindani, echoed His Majesty's words and congratulated the Speaker.
Bakangwane ke Speaker bakhulume lokunyenti bakangwane being ingwenyama na indlovukazi kiyo imiyalo lekufuna Speaker bakanye na deputy lekufuna bahambe ngayo indlela yokuthi iParliament ku conductwa kanjani lokhu kwenteka kanjani leyo miyalo leyo ivakele itolo.
Siyethemba sinesiciniseko futhi sekuthi lendlu le utayihola njengamntu waNkulunkulu uphinze uyihole njengeliswati uphinze uyihole ngebucotfo lobu beyond.
Members of Parliament are to be capacitated on the country's constitution and standing orders of the Honorable House. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkalsiwe Koza with Zikumbuzo Dlamini, Parliament.
Patron of Sikalo Foundation, His Royal Highness Prince Sikalo, has handed over 2 new houses that the foundation has built for 2 elderly women of Sicelweni under the Manzini North constituency. His Royal Highness also distributed food parcels and an assortment of items to over 500 citizens, which included the vulnerable elderly.
The first recipient to receive a brand new house from His Royal Highness was 72-year-old Togonzi Manze, who was forced by circumstances to live in this structure with her 10 grandchildren. Life was a challenge indeed, but today her life has transformed as His Royal Highness has officially gifted her with this brand new house. Gogo Nzimanze lived in fear as there was a strong possibility that her stick and mud house could end up being infested with snakes. She has to grapple with the reality of taking care of her 10 grandchildren whose survival is squarely on her shoulders. She expressed her gratitude to His Royal Highness.
ngoba lo msebenzi la wendako awusuki kuye kepha usuka kuNkulunkulu.
His Royal Highness opened another house that was built for 63-year-old Emma Dlamini, who unfortunately passed away before she could settle into her new house, leaving behind 6 grandchildren. Her newly built house was received by her son Petros Mazia.
Sithanda kubonga kakhulu kumthandi inkosi naso sonke isivele silekelele kulesipho labasendele sona. Asathi ukuthi singabonga sithini kodwa nje sibonga kakhulu kumthandi inkosi.
Siyeva mcanco ukuthi make lebe makhela ubese so uthathwa uNkulunkulu. Ingabe beangasijabulela kangakanani lesakhiwo?
Ngiyethemba bengasijabulela kakhulu ngoba into vele bekayidinge kakhulu. Kufa ke lokunga applyelwa siva buhlungu kodwa nje siyethemba la khona ulale ngekuthula. Uyasibona futhi nesakhiwo sakhe.
His Royal Highness stretched his philanthropic crusade a little further by bringing smiles to over 500 citizens who included the elderly, orphans and the disabled. They all received an assortment of food items, blankets, clothing items including shoes and wheelchairs. This year, the Sikalo Foundation is celebrating 21 years of impacting the nation and bringing hope in hopeless situations. His Royal Highness expressed his sadness over the manner in which Gogo Emadlameni passed away.
Singakefiki ke bekunene bekusakhiwa khona lapha sajabha kakhulu kuva ukuthi awu lapha besithi na lomunye gogo lebeka khona vele lapha endzaweni sesiva leti ibhlungu ngaye ukuthi awu so ulimele ngetindlela letitsite letingasito futhi naleti semthethweni ukuthi ngawulimele ngato kusivise ebhlungu kakhulu ke lokho ukuthi awu singathi umuntu omdzala simakhela nje mase kusele emalanga lamabili lamathathu sekuba khona amajabhane lasavela ganga ngaye amgilisa tika kwabese kubona ukuthi awu sesitawuqhubeka kona siyakhe indlu yagogo.
When presenting the assortment of gifts to the excited citizens, His Royal Highness assured that the foundation is working towards catering for disabled young children.
Lesiphinze kwaba netipo letinye lesitiphathako ukuthi awu bogogo bakhona ukuthi bamane bambathe enzambama nasekuhlwile ukuthi bakhona ukuphumula kahle. Sise kopelelweni lelikhulu ke ukuthi ke nabo ke bantwana lakwati ukuthi baphila ngama disabilities ngekukhubateka lokuthide simane sikhona ukubona lihlelo ukuthi yini lesingakhona ukuthi sibendele kona bona ngoba lamhla sikakhona lokuthi sihlanganise kahle tonke inombolo kepha ke ifoundation isakuketa lokho siyethemba ukuthi ekuhambeni kwesikhathi kutathi noma sekuhlangene nako bese sesibiza sesiyayibuyisa lokho program leyo lesiyilungisako yabo ukuthi bamane bakhona nabo ukuthola lisido bekunene.
Sigodro Motsa, who spoke on behalf of the Masunvini Royal Crawl, said His Royal Highness's visit to Sikolweni served as an opportunity for him to appreciate the daily challenges that confront the community.
Ngane ngosisi bulala emabhodlela kubuka thina emphakathini waseMasundvini. Kepha phela vele bongabuka apha engenu la. Sikhulusa lana uvame isho inkosi ukuthi sikhulusa la ngiyo. Iphinze futhi ithi indvuna yala engumgijimi so sine nje silibandla. Kuta kwesigodlo sibone bulukhuni lesiphila andabona kuyasihambisha ngoba uniphinze uyoba linxusa lethu enkosini njengoba ubonile nje letalukati lo tichastile letulu ubonile ukuthi ticanca indzaba kuyofika khona lapho tiya khona ubonile lo mgwanqo lo buka sithi connecting road leyo uyophuma emakholweni.
The Manzini Regional Administrator Prince Gicha said it was important for those who received gifts from His Royal Highness to share with others who are also in need. On the news, I am Sandile Makanya reporting from Sicelweni.
Residents of Sicelweni under the Manzini North constituency have praised His Majesty King Mswati III and Her Majesty Indlovukazi for instilling good values in Emazinyane. The residents say their Royal Highnesses have demonstrated that they have embraced all the teachings that were instilled by their Majesties by reaching out and helping vulnerable citizens in the country. The residents spoke during an event where His Royal Highness Prince Sikalo handed over new houses to 2 elderly women in the area.
Siyabonga kakhulu sisicelo siyamangala nje ukuthi isicelo saze sakhunjulwa Siyayibonga inkosi lokuthi ikhulise abantwana. Sebacabanga lokuthi kunebantu la ngaphandle labaswele, labadzingile, labalambile, labanetinkinga. Sibujabula nje lokuthi nalo lizinyane litowuvela libuke la ukuthi lendzawo indzawo lenjani.
Siyabonga kakhulu emakhosi kukhulisa emazinyana latawathi tinzanzane nebafelakati nabogogo. Sijabule kakhulu siyadumisa kakhulu ukuthi naso silo nendlovukazi asikhumbule Nkosi yami ngoba thina bogogo bantu babethu bashiyana labantwana balahlele hayi ukuthi kukhona ini bede kuthi imisebenzi sidumisa kakhulu nje.
Sibonga kakhulu emakhosi ethu siwathandza kakhulu. Siyabonga sasikhulisela emazinyane namhla asaphumile. Ayasibuka la ngaphandle sibogogo asikhoni kuhamba. Sasala nebatukulu sesondla abatukulu. Siyabonga kakhulu emakhosini ethu akangwane.
Sinekujabula lokukhulu nasibona ukuthi sifukanyelwe ngoba lokhu kusikhombisa ukuthi live noma emakhosi ayasithandza ayasibonelela. Siyabonga kakhulu lesikubongako ukuthi sibone nokuthi siphila kanjani. Kuyasithokozisa kakhulu lokho asikalahleki siseveni lelifuthumele kakhulu. Shathe uNkulunkulu anganzisa konke laba kwentaba.
Eswatini has fully committed to the 5-year sub-regional gender-based violence against women and girls program. Speaking during the launch in South Africa, the Principal Secretary in the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, Melusi Masuku, told stakeholders that the government of Eswatini is in the process of developing gender equality and women empowerment mechanisms to strengthen gender coordination nationally as a way of translating gender equality policies into tangible programs.
Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, Namibia, South Africa and Zambia have come up with the 5-year sub-regional gender-based violence program after realizing that violence against women and girls is on the rise. United Nations Population Fund's head of office, Margaret Toller, says the issue of funds was also discussed during the meeting.
Ukhanza ukuthi kudzingeka 96.8 million. Kodwa ke le mali lena itawuhlukaniswa ngalamazwe osithupha. Kangwane nje ngendeka sithole ngetulu kwancane kwa 10 million for the program lecala nga-2024 irane for 5 years.
Kwakha Invotsa's Chief Executive Director Sonic Dlamini, who attended the meeting virtually, says they are doing all they can to sensitize the public on gender-based violence.
One of the key things that we do is to hold dialogues and try and really discuss how men can best play a role in protecting and ending gender-based violence and also protecting and upholding the rights of women and girls.
Of Eswatini, people living with disabilities, Bongani Makama says, people living with disabilities face violence every day.
Addressing such challenges to them, it is a great achievement. Though we can tell that there are some other laws that are a challenge, such as the Criminal Persecution Evidence Act of 1938, which denies testimonials for persons with psychosocial disabilities.
The United Nations states that in the SADC region, an estimated 33% of women have experienced intimate partner violence in their lifetime. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
Medical specialists from the Republic of South Korea are in the kingdom to provide medical assistance to Eswatini. They will specialize on skin, lungs and intestines. They are stationed at the Mbabane Government Hospital and RFM.
The South Korean specialists will be in the country till Friday the 13th. The Director of Health Services, Dr. Valepi Okelo, says there's already a queue waiting for the medical practitioners' assistance.
So starting with the gastroenterologist, the main issue here is that he's here to help us do endoscopies colonoscopies, or in other words. So that means we will be doing procedures that will enable us to detect if people have any ailments or inside the intestines, beginning from the colon if you come from behind up to the small intestines. So they will be helping us both at RFM and Babane Government Hospital. We already have people booked for those services. So we are very grateful for that assistance because it will help to really expedite the diagnosis of cancers for some of these patients who may be suspected of having colon cancer and other problems in the gastrointestinal tract. We also have the pulmonologist, who is a specialist in lung problems, who will assist us in detecting any complicated lung problems that we might have.
Members of the public are not expected to pay any cent for the health services since they are free. For Eswatini TV News, I am Kian Msibu with Smuva Shongwe, Babane.
37 chiefdoms have benefited from the smallholder market-led project by the Eswatini Water Development and Agricultural Enterprise since its inception 7 years ago. The Chief Executive Officer, Samson Sithole, said over 100,000 Maswati have benefited from different projects. He was speaking at the George Hotel in Manzini during the closeout of the program, where present were chiefs and representatives of benefiting communities.
The project has been of great benefit to 37 communities under 37 chiefs or chiefdoms. This is a project that has taught communities skills in many areas. To start with, communities have learned to build ferrocement tanks to harvest rainwater.
Manzini Regional Secretary Arnold Dlamini says there has been significant development under the smallholder market-led project.
In 5 chiefdoms, whereby they have taught them to develop development plans. They also taught them to do smallhold farming, and lastly, they were taught how to conduct conservation.
The secretary at Mafutseni Umphakathi, Themba Mkoko, says in his community, most beneficiaries are now able to sell their produce to commercial markets through the help of the program.
Thuthukise kakhulu siganga sakithi Mafutseni ngobe nyalo so uyatithola tinkukhu so uyatithola netimbuti letifiyelwa ukuthi tithengiswe tothuthuka wona eMaswati.
According to the World Food Programme, smallholder farming remains the backbone of rural livelihoods in Eswatini. 70% of Emaswati still depend on subsistence farming. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Manzini.
On international news, around 5,000 bodies of Hamas militants have been found in Israel around the Gaza Strip, the army said Tuesday as it pummeled the Palestinian enclave with airstrikes.
An iron ring around the border. This phalanx of Israeli armoured vehicles and tanks is part of the 35 battalions that are being deployed to surround Gaza. The military says the frontier is almost completely under Israeli control. Soldiers are planting mines where the border was breached on Saturday. The army says it's found the bodies of around 1,500 Hamas fighters in Israel, but there have been no new infiltrations from Gaza since Monday. The enclave is under siege, locked off even from food, water and fuel. The Israeli government doesn't expect it to be over soon. On Monday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a stark warning for Hamas. It's just the beginning.
It will take time, but I promise you, dear Israeli citizens, that at the end of this campaign, all of our enemies will know that it was a grave mistake to attack Israel. What we will do to our enemies in the coming days will reverberate with them for generations.
Netanyahu's statement came as Hamas militants threatened to start killing civilian hostages if Israel's bombing of civilian areas in the enclave continues without warning. Under threat of relentless bombardment, the Israeli army has told civilians in Gaza to flee to Egypt while they can through the Rafah crossing, the only border point not controlled by Israel.
Israeli strikes on Lebanon killed 3 Hezbollah members on Monday. The Iran-backed group said as tensions surged after Palestinian militants tried to infiltrate into Israel from Lebanon. The escalation on Israel's northern border with Lebanon comes 2 days after Hamas militants launched an unprecedented multi-pronged attack on Israel's southern flank from the blockaded Gaza Strip.
Smoke rises from southern Lebanon after Israeli strikes, sparking fears of a major escalation on another front. Hamas has called on other Palestinian and Arab groups to join its operation against Israel. Islamic Jihad answered that call, and on Monday it said it sent several gunmen across Lebanon's border into northern Israel. At least one Israeli commander was killed in that incursion, while the Israeli military confirmed it shot dead several armed suspects. Subsequent Israeli strikes into southern Lebanon killed several members of Hezbollah. That group responded with a barrage of rockets and mortars aimed at 2 Israeli army bases in northern Israel. Hezbollah had already launched strikes on Sunday in solidarity, it said, with the Palestinian people. A US defense official has expressed concern about Hezbollah making the, quote, wrong decision and choosing to open another front in the conflict. Tensions have been building for months on the so-called Blue Line, the de facto border between Israel and Lebanon. In June, the head of the peacekeeping force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, said the situation there was extremely sensitive after a series of incidents, including exchanges of rockets by Israel and Hezbollah. UNIFIL is now urging both sides to prevent a fast deterioration. The long-running conflict has boiled over in the past. In 2006, more than 1,000 Lebanese people, mostly civilians, and dozens of Israelis, mostly soldiers, were killed in a month-long war between Israel and Hezbollah.
A senior official said only a small number of top commanders inside Gaza knew about the wide-ranging incursion launched into Israel, but that allies like Iran and the Lebanese Hezbollah will join the battle if Gaza is subjected to a war of annihilation. The surprise attack on Saturday caught Israel's vaunted military and intelligence services completely off guard as hundreds of Hamas gunmen poured through holes blown in the border fence and rampaged through several towns, killing hundreds of soldiers and civilians, as well as capturing scores of others.
Leaving behind a trail of destruction, it's the most audacious and deadliest Hamas attack in decades. But even the militant group itself has admitted it didn't expect such little resistance from the Israeli army. In an interview, senior commander Ali Barakeh said only half a dozen members of Hamas leadership knew about the operation. He said the group remains defiant even as the Gaza Strip faces a total siege and the Palestinian people would withstand.
We have reserves that can last us months. We're not cut off. We held up for 51 days in the 2014 war, and we're ready to hold out many months.
Hamas is still holding dozens of Israelis hostage. Barakeh said the group wants to secure the release of Palestinians in Israeli jails, plus some in the US who are accused of funding Hamas. Israel has called up 300,000 reserves, and analysts expect it to launch a ground invasion or even a reoccupation of Gaza. Barakeh said Hamas's allies would come to help if needed.
Our allies are ready to join the fight if Gaza is subjected to a war of annihilation. They will not sit with their hands tied. The government of Israel knows they will open the gates of hell if they try to destroy Gaza.
Barakeh denied Iran was involved in planning the weekend's attack, though acknowledged that Tehran and Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group have helped train and provide weapons to Hamas in the past.
U.S. President Joe Biden said that he will ask Congress to take action to defuse Middle East tensions after Hamas militants attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people, including at least 14 Americans.
President Joe Biden minced no words in describing the shock and horror of Hamas' surprise weekend attack on Israel.
This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain.
And he clarified Washington's stance on Israel's counteroffensive.
We stand with Israel. And we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack. There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse.
To that end, he said the U.S. has sent a strike carrier group to the region, and he says he'll ask Congress, once a new House Speaker is elected, to take urgent action to fund the national security requirements of our critical partners. Analysts say the carnage has touched a raw nerve at the White House, which illuminated itself in Israel's color over the tragedy.
There may be Americans captured by a terrorist group, and that's got to be a priority of any American president. And the second issue is coming to terms with the deaths of Americans in a terrorist attack in Israel. Add to that all the complexities of a very difficult regional situation. And it involves not only Israel and Hamas, but the possibility of Hezbollah and Iranian involvement. So President Biden is trying to wrestle with all these.
VOA asked the White House whether Biden asked Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to exercise restraint in his military response.
And nobody wants to see innocent life taken. And there, as I said, there's been too much of it. One of the great things about our relationship with Israel is that we're two vibrant democracies, and we mutually believe in things like the respect for innocent life and the rule of law. And we're always stronger together, our two countries, when we show that to the world, that we do respect innocent life and that we do respect the not only the rule of law, but the law of war.
U.S. adversaries were quick to point blame.
Unfortunately, we can see a sharp deterioration of the situation in the Middle East. I think that many will agree with me that this is a clear example of the failure of the policy of the United States in the Middle East, which tried to monopolize the resolution, but unfortunately was not concerned with finding compromises acceptable to both sides.
Kirby said conflict in Israel won't take Washington's eye off other threats, wherever they are.
Any nation who might think that somehow the United States is going to get distracted should think again. We are a large enough, big enough, powerful enough country, economically viable enough. In fact, the economy is incredibly strong right now, that we can look after our national security interests and those of our allies and partners anywhere around the world.
Nor, Biden said, will he walk away from Israel.
Qatari mediators have held urgent calls with the Hamas officials to try to negotiate freedom for Israeli women as well as children seized by the militant group and held in Gaza in exchange for the release of 36 Palestinian women and children from Israel's prisons.
Qatar has strong links to Hamas, some of whose leaders are based in the capital, Doha, like Ismail Haniyeh. And unlike its Gulf neighbours, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, Qatar hasn't normalised ties with Israel, despite keeping channels of communication open. It's this position that could give it more sway. Qatar expanded its role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict back in 2006, when Hamas won the Palestinian legislative elections. The Qataris tried mediating between Hamas and Fatah, the party of late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, but failed. A year later, Hamas violently seized control of the Gaza Strip. While other governments ostracized the militants, Qatar stepped up its role in the territory. 2012 was a pivotal year. Hamas opened a political office in the Qatari capital, Doha, while Qatar's former emir became the first head of state to visit the Gaza Strip since Hamas took control. Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani was given a hero's welcome, urging the Palestinians to put on a united front.
First, the division between Palestinians, and second, the division between the Arabs have caused more damage to the Palestinian cause than the repeated Israeli aggression. There are no peace negotiations, and there is no clear strategy of resistance and liberation.
He also pledged $400 million to rebuild Gaza at a time when international aid to the territory was drying up. Since then, it's largely Qatari money that's prevented a humanitarian crisis, with Doha reportedly providing the territory with $1 billion in financial aid between 2012 and 2018. And it's an arrangement that appears to have suited the Israeli government too, which views the money as a way of keeping tensions in check. But 3 years later, those tensions have spiraled into open warfare. The Qataris will now see the conflict as an opportunity to push its credentials as the region's go-to negotiator, succeeding where other regional powerhouses have failed.
Analysts say Azerbaijan's capture of the Nagorno-Karabakh enclave from ethnic Armenians is the latest success of an alliance between Turkey and Azerbaijan. That alliance, observers say, is challenging Russia's grip on the Caucasus as Moscow is distracted by its full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Azerbaijani forces' capture of the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh enclave from ethnic Armenians came after 3 decades of on-off conflict. Turkish training of Azerbaijani forces using Turkish-made drones proved decisive, as did Moscow's failure to intervene in support of its Armenian ally. A sign some observers say that Moscow is distracted by its war in Ukraine.
Russia became more vulnerable in its internal politics and in its exterior strategies, also in the Caucasus, in Central Asia, in the Middle East, and that creates new spaces and new possibilities also for other regional powers in partly to regain their positions, partly to become new leverages of influence.
Decades of simmering tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh, experts say, allowed Moscow to exert influence over the region by playing both sides against each other. The defeat of the Armenian-backed forces is a significant loss for Moscow.
It will influence, at least in the short term, its ability to act or to have clout with these two states, with Azerbaijan and Armenia. But I believe that in the long run, Russia does see this area as strategic important, does see it as its backyard, will not allow too much independence on the side of Armenia and Azerbaijan.
But any attempt by Moscow to reassert its dominance in the Caucasus will face competition as Ankara continues to deepen ties with Baku. Turkey is now militarily committed to defend Azerbaijan in the event of any attack.
Turkey aimed to be establishing peace and stability in Caucasus. You look at here, Russia is here. They invaded just in a short time in Georgia. And then we see what's happening in the Crimea and also in the Ukraine.
With Turkey beset by economic woes, deepening ties with energy-rich Azerbaijan is a key goal. Turkey also wants to turn the Caucasus into an alternative energy export route for Central Asian countries and break Russia's tight grip on energy distribution. Observers say Ankara and Moscow have a long history of diffusing their disputes by using economic issues to find common ground.
I study Russian-Turkish relations, the past 100 years of Russian-Turkish relations, and I see episodes of brief moments of conflict that have been so carefully managed. Turkey and Russia successfully, for the past 100 years, used economy to manage, and cooperation, to manage these geopolitical disputes, which they have many on the table.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Russian leader Vladimir Putin have developed a close working relationship, much of which has involved managing conflicting rivalries. The situation in the Caucasus may prove to be their biggest challenge.
Sitsebe Samhlekazi has been knocked out of this year's COSAFA Women Championship after their 3-0 defeat against Banyana Banyana on Tuesday.
Begin our sports roundup with the Sitsebe Samhlekazi that has been knocked out of this year's COSAFA Women Championship after their 3-0 defeat against Banyana Banyana on Tuesday. Tubelihle Shamase netted twice in the first half before sealing a victory with the third one in the second half. Despite Sitsebe being knocked out, Banyana Banyana also was not able to proceed to the semi-finals, as only one team can make it out of the group stages and only Malawi is sitting at the top of the log. Sitsebe head coach Zweli Khoza believes they have learned a lot despite their defeat in this year's tournament.
Few have been here before, but we learned. Because we never lose, but we learn as a team, but we'll do better going forward in the next edition. We conceded soft goals. You can't do that against a team from the World Cup.
Unfortunately, we couldn't go beyond the group stages, but if you don't win your first game, it sets you back. But then again, it all started from way back, when we should have come in earlier, but we did not. And I take my hat off to the players and, for the effort that they put in. I'm sad and disappointed for them, but they showed today, that the future is bright.
In other news, rugby national team Sizeze has dropped to 104th position in the latest World Rugby rankings, meaning they have now dropped 2 places from their recent rankings in August this year, where they were ranked 102nd. Eswatini Rugby Union has promised more international competitions in the near future to improve their rankings. The Springboks of South Africa have dropped to 3rd in the world. Zimbabwe are ranked 31st, while Zambia are 69th in the world. Ireland are still ranked 1st in the world, with France the 2nd. The rankings are expected to be updated after the conclusion of the ongoing Rugby World Cup in France. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
Bongosi asithathena sisimo selitulo sibahlole emarket sitawubuya sichubeke nehlelo.
Asimze sinimukele sakuvuselana ulosanza kusivulela lo mhla ehlelweni sicubeka nalo lo mhla ekseni ngeminyaka wa 2011 mhlabuhlangene wabeka 11 October kuthi kutawuba ilanga legubhala ilanga lemfana wemfombatana International Day of the Girl Child kuveta nje sithombe setinkinga emantfombatana labhekana nato kanti ke kusho ke report ya eminyaka wa 2013 leyavetwa inhlangano UNESCO yavetela ukuthi 31 million wamamfombatana lase primary school bewangekho esikoleni and 1 out of every 4 young women in developing countries had never completed their primary school education. I'm joined by Mpendulo Masuku, who's the gender monitoring and evaluation analyst ehovisini liphini landvuna khulu tokhuluma nje ngato tinkinga letibhekene nemantfombatana lapha ekhaya Eswatini nokuva nje ukuthi ngabe ngimaphi ama interventions la khona in place lendiwa nguhulumende kanye nalo leli hovisa. Sikuvusele saba ngaMpendulo ukuthi ube nathi lo mhla ekseni lilanga lelikhulu leli. I think nasibuka nje kakhulu kukanenge mhlabuhlangene nathi veta tinkinga letibhekene nemantfombatana mhlaba wonke nje. I think lehamba embili nje kulamanye emave ekakhulu kade nje lapha esifundeni seAfrica kuba indzaba ye child marriages ukuthi labaningi bamfana kwanza ukuthi sebayenziswa basesebancane kakhulu ngayo indzaba nje ye poverty kuveta nje kusinikeza sithombe sokuthi lapha ekhaya Eswatini tinkinga tini nje letivelako kumamfombatana.
Asibonga kakhulu Mthombeni sivusele na kuwe babukeli cishe vele kuliqiniso lelilanga nje kakhulu kade liphakanyiswa nje kubuka indzaba yokuthi historically vele ema girls noma amantfombatana cishe abe disadvantaged kusesigabeni etindzabeni letiningi sibuka girls phindze futhi uphindze ubuke nangale ku women ukuthi vele le disadvantage ibakhona from early age. That's why then sekuthiwa no asirecognize lelanga siliphakamisele lelanga just to galvanize efforts ukuthi no asesibambisane to raise some awareness and because ke lelanga vele cishe bekulanga nje lokuthi asesisimave sesibukisane lokuthi vele what are the challenges, what are the issues specific to our different countries as member states are United Nations. And ke asesiba seSwatini vele cishe bekusulokulanga lebesolo selirecognize seli commemorate and ke now uyabuka in Eswatini specifically vele lama challenges akehluka kangakho but nje akhona lawo la specific to Eswatini. For instance ukhuluma indzaba nje child marriage ukuthi kwenziswa kubantwana etinvo cishe naseSwatini sesekhona sisatibona. I think from the latest surveys labekhona lesinayo in terms of information data seseku 4% in terms of girls who are married noma ke in a union ngoba khona lokuthi they are married khona lokuthi bahlala vele ukuthi bahlalisana nebantu kwangathi sebasethene. So in terms of the data nase analyze akuthathwa ngosinabo bese kuyahlanganiswa kuthiwa they are married or in a union before the age of 18 and kuyabona ukuthi is a serious cause for concern nangabe bantwana laba below the age of 18 are married off noma ke are staying with people as if they are married ngoba lokho kusitshela ukuthi we disregarding the Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Act, we are disregarding the Child Protection and Welfare Act lekuyimithetho levikela bona abantwana as far as engaging in sexual intercourse at an early age and also in as far as kubakipitisa noma kubahlalisa nebantu laba bathatha ngokuthi babafati babo. And ke esikhathini esiningi vele sikhanza ukuthi ngilama girls lokhanza ukuthi are at more risk noma are more disadvantaged than the boys because masibuka nje 4% is for the girls but kuma boys ukhanza ukuthi it's 1.8% ukhanza bafana lekuthola ukuthi baya bayenziswa nabo nasabafana kuyendeka unfortunately and I think it's a thing involved kufanele mhlambe siyibuke silive ukuthi sisebenza kanjani noma mhlawumbe ngasi inombolo lezinkulu kangako but nje inombolo lezinkulu nobo ukuthi 4% of bantwana bemaswati it's a lot in terms of naso ballet inombolo and ngelamanye ke ma issues ahambisana nenzabatabo ngoba sikhuluma nge-marriage but ukhanda ukuthi siphinde sifika nesigabeni sabo teenage pregnancies. Look, still it's a problem lesisenayo Eswatini particularly as far as girls are concerned because fortunately mhlawumbe for boys bona abakhulelwe but ke for girls bona but khanza sebana leyo burden ukuthi seba engaged ke kuleyo unprotected sexual intercourse akhona ama STIs yebo ma boys but awathola but the issue of pregnancies then is another key concerning issue because I think even from the Ministry of Education we've had issues in the past yebo kona siyajabula lokho ukuthi gradually seyikhona le kuba embrace in terms of ukuthi baqhubeke phela abafundi bangabe sekuba ibhera lokuthi so ethwele lo mntwana but akaqhubeka khona ke esikoleni yebo kona kusesekhona ama issues ngoba it's a new thing evene nje na society ukuthi umntwana zoqhubeka sisu soyofunza nabantu abami bona labangaya attend kusho ukuthini, you know, and so on and so forth. But ke sethemba lokuthi kancane society sizagcina sikwetayela sigcine mhlambe siku-embrace, because it's not about mhlambe ukuthi siyakukhuthata yini, but nje loku-embrace lokuthi yathi nabo bayadeserve, they have to continue with their education in even though sebakule simo lebakizo. And also on top of that, ngoba inzaba ye-teenage pregnancy mthombeni utakhumbula ukuthi nangabe ubona nje umntwana lo dethwele, a child noma a person below the age of 18 adethwele ngekwemthetho welive kusho ukuthi a sexual offense had occurred, lokusho ukuthi loyo mntwana lo was raped ngekwemthetho. Siyathi kona ukuthi mhlambe there are many issues ngakhanga ukuthi hayi lokunye bavumelene, hayi kunjani bekusingani sakhe bekunjani, but ngekwemthetho uthi umthetho any person below the age of 18 angeke akhona ku-consent to have a sexual intercourse. Okusho ukuthi walala naye noma ngabe uvumile noma ngabe ukuthi icelele, but that still accounts to rape ngekwemthetho. Lokusho ukuthi nje bonke abantwana laba dadetfele laba below the age of 18 were raped ngekwemthetho. And it's a cause for concern nangabe sibadali sima community members sithi hlobo sitawuhlala sibukele sibe sibade nalabo bantwana ukuthi bakuphi, because I think it's a matter of ukuthi report, because umthetho usivele if you suspect noma ngabe you have reasonable doubt, I mean you have a reasonable belief ukuthi kwendeke i-offense, you must report according to the SOTV section 71. Lokusho ukuthi ke vele sesemnenge umsebenzi kufanele ukuthi siwende silive, because kusho ukuthi siyababukelela nje labantu bethu. And ke mina ngiyithatha ukuthi na ubona umntwana lo below the age of 18 adethwele ubukuthatha ukuthi kube ngilo wakho ke botawenda njani when as a father noma as a mother noma as a brother noma as a sister botawubinzisa endweni na uthulise ungafuni kwathi ukuthi ngibani lo wende lokho kulo mntwana. So I think that thing mhlambe kudzinga kusagcina ukuthi kusathenga ukuthi siqhubeke si raise the awareness and encourage amaswati ukuthi no asikuthatheni serious, because umthetho sokhona to protect, but ngisengithi nyalo lesi singasafuni kubambisana nemthetho to that extent. So kuyenzaba teenage pregnancy, and also moving further to ngisabela nje lama issues la khona, you know, and also in as far as gender-based violence is concerned, I think there's a lot masibukanza by violence against children. The latest statistics when it comes to violence against children and youth, as Kombise, there's been a slight decrease in terms of the prevalence statistics, in terms of how often it happens, affected. For instance, in the past, from 2007, the Solar 70 data, let's tell 1 in 3 girls experience sexual violence in their lifetime. But nyalo see from 2022 so le data lentsha lesitshela ukuthi no nyalo kwehla ehlile, it's 1 in 5. Losho ukuthi kukhona losekushinjile esiveni in terms of awareness, in terms of prevention ne-protecta ke bantwana bethu, particularly when it comes to violence. But ke mhlambe ngeke sisho sithi achievement le-10, but because vele lokunengwa kule sikusebenzisa because of evidence. Ngabe ikhona le data le evidence lesiniketa le reasonable belief ukuthi no vele lokusendeka, then we take that up and send them up programs lafaneleke to try and address those issues. So for now nje lokusinika lokuthi kushothile bese losikuyena mhlambe kukhona lushinjo loncane lesilibonako as far as mhlambe le issue of sexual violence and other forms of violence, because lesilokunye lesikubona ukuthi even nenzaba dabo psychosocial, psychological violence, emotional violence, now it's on the rise, because iyona i-tricky ngalokuthi even if it's sexual violence, emotionally you are going to be affected. Even if it's physical, emotionally you are going to be violated also. Even if it's verbal, emotionally still you are going to be violated. So you we've been cut across all the different forms of types of violence. That is why is on the rise, and as such, it's also galvanizing my efforts about mental health, because that's another area and you find that a lot of young people are taking away their lives because about because of the issues that they have faced, and therefore now as bakhula sekuyabalimata as young people, as a youth sekuyabalimata nabasakhona mhlambe bethi bangazuthi sibadevalela mhlambe in their closets laba bagcina sibadibulala and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things cishe kufacane nebantwana, particularly the girls in our country. There's a lot mhlambe manje bengathi ngifuna
nje sithinta mhlambe le education, I think so siniketele nje sithombe impendulo ukuthi vele nasibuka inhlangothi lakwa health nakhona they're exposed to diseases with HIV ne-welfare yabo is not safe, is not catered for kahle. Ngifuna sivete nje mhlambe le hlangothi lakwa education. I think I did highlight on my intro ukuthi i-report yaka UNESCO yavetela ukuthi 31 million girls around the world labanye babo were not in school, and some abazange batfola ithuba lokuthi bacede ifundvo tabo. Ingabe mhlambe looking back nje kule minyaka leyo kusendeka yini lokho? I think siwabonile ama interventions ahulumende nje ngekusukumisa free primary education. Ingabe vele mhlambe selikhona into lishintsho ukuthi ngeke nje kusendeka ukuthi umfana primary angabe sesikoleni.
Asibonga kakhulu Mthombeni. Cishe vele uhulumende waseSwatini usebenzile leyo kakhulu in terms of access to education, particularly basic education. Lesigabeni sokuthi, as you mentioned, from 2010 the pre-primary education, I think ngiyole site kakhulu to ensure ukuthi ukuthi umntwana weSwati lomncane kufanele abe sesikolweni lo ngekho esikolweni. And as a result nje ke, I think from the statistics la khona kube sibonile ukuthi nyalo nje ngicabanga ukuthi siwa sitting at around 97-98% in terms of enrollment rates. So ukuthi kubaningi abantwana la sebaya esikolweni versus labangayi. And ke labo labangayi ukhanza ukuthi there's a few issues lekusathini ukuthi vele live still wasebenze. For instance, sesinayo lama challenges enza double birth registration ukuthi basesekhona abantwana labethe ama certificates. And for you to even access free primary education, you must have a PIN number, which means you must be registered with the civil registration. So lokusho ukuthi ke sesenalawo ma issues lawo lamancane la khona, because nyalo ukuze ukhona nje ngena na kule system ufuna ukuthi vele bakuregister with your unique identifier, which is your PIN number. So ke ngileyawo nje cishe ama issues la khona. Otherwise, even in terms of looking at boys and girls, but in the past because there's a lot of boys in school and less girls, but now sesiyabona ukuthi no, actually there's even a lot more girls now, because vele even in terms of our population vele we have a majority of female population than male population. So even at kolweni fanele kubonakale kanjalo ukuthi we have more girls. Okusho ukuthi vele sekude mhlambe leyo discrimination because I'm a girl hayi angahlala kuhambe kufundza nomfana lebe sikubona in the past, but now I think sekushinjile. Sengilawo ma issues nje lawo lakhanza ukuthi issue of the certificates lekusese issue mhlambe which the Ministry of Home Affairs together nabo DPM as office and other stakeholders are working on to ensure ukuthi at least let's make sure ukuthi kubukhona lesikwendako to ensure ukuthi bonke labantwana babhaliswa so that they are able to access. But the other issue mhlambe lekhona sengilele sicetha kuyithinza ukuthi sengilama dropouts nakhona because of issues of pregnancy or issues of to some extent corporal punishment, ngoba nakhona sesikubonile ukuthi particularly ma corporal punishment kuba issue ma boys kakhulu kusibona they would rather leave school than ukuthi bayoshaya ngendlela esikolweni, and that's an issue efanele si address. But nje ke namhla sikedingayo but on the girl side is the issue of teenage pregnancy. That's maybe
and also I think mhlambe nalenye nje inkinga lebhekene bamfana labane ma disabilities, particularly mhlambe umfana lesingathemba une autism because mhlambe soka ngakaphili kahle ngqondweni naye lo yoba exposed mhlambe ukuthi bekhona leyo mvulelo sawubese sobona lithuba lokuthi mhlambe angamhlukubeda ngeke welicansi. Do you see a lot of those issues mhlambe those challenges nje letibhekenele bamfana bamamfamadana aba disabled?
Yeah, thank you very much for touching also on that one. I think leyo ngilenye vele issue that's also a great cause for concern when it comes to children with disabilities. I think nakhona the Ministry of Education nelhovisi la DPM solo nakhona kulikhona lolu banjiswano when it comes to issues of inclusive schools. I think ikhona iprogram lekhona and nelihlangothi nje libukeleyo part special education kulolitiko letemfundo. And I think ke lesesasasele sengileyo ngcengwana nje ukuthi I think the drive besolo ingukuthi kufanele babe netikolo tabo labakhubatekile bona bafunze bodwana. But sesiyabona lokuthi kancane ngenzaba inclusion, ngenzaba leaving no one behind, sesikhuluma ngenzaba mainstreaming yalo ukuthi let's have inclusive schools la khona nalabo labakhubatekile they can mingle with labangakhubateki bafunze kanye kube sekuba ngilawo ke ma special cases ukuthi kulaba vele bathinga ukuthi they need to be given special attention because of certain reasons, njengoba sobekile nje children with autism labana ngoba autism nakhona is a spectrum, so kuya ngokuthi sokusiphi isigaba which level which nale severity severity yale autism yakho lobhekene nayo. And ke I think nakhona we still lack mhlambe kancane in terms of the experts kulawo ma areas ukuthi abakhona kubasita labantwana, and I think nawo ngokunye ama programs le mhlambe litiko letemfundo is working on to ensure ukuthi donke letikolo ngoba kwanyalo ngiyathi ukuthi there are some schools lokhana ukuthi are inclusive. For instance they have 4 schools in each region lebazama ukuthi ba pilot babuka ukuthi ngabe masingathi bonke labantwana abafundza kanye kungaba kanjani. So I think from that mhlambe learning sitawukhona kubona ukuthi are we able in as a country to upscale ukuthi no cishe vele azame ukuthi tonke itikolo tibe inclusive ngoba kulokunye ukhanza ukuthi akusine issue ukuthi labantwana mhlambe abakhona ifundza nalabanye mhlambe it's because mhlambe une visual impairment noma une hearing impairment, and if akhona lama aids angakhona kumsita ukuthi naye angachubeka kahlale eklasini nalabanye as long as anale hearing aid nangabe une issue ye hearing impairment akhona ukulalela noma unayo le braille naba is visually impaired utokhona nakulandzela ukuthi kwendekani kufundwa yini. I think that also then suffices ngoba so usho angahlala neklasini afunde njengalabanye alalele asimakalele akhona yena kubhala ngebraille yakhe labanye babhala emabhukwini, and I think that should be the inclusivity lesimina ukuthi bekho kube betele loba segregator ukuthi bona hayi ababe bodfana ngoba banje ngoba nabatagcina sibathi vela ngathi siba out of society. So I think that's the drive lekhona together I mean with the ministry I mean the office like DPM and the Ministry of Education because let's have more inclusive schools as opposed to secluding them ukuthi bona babe seceleni. And I think even to society as a whole mloko ukuthi vele akungaba singaba bantwana labakhubatekile kwangazuthi a special case bona batsenga in azamele ukuba integrate ukuthi whatever we're doing nabasiba involved siba engage babe part of kube ngusike khona timbo la lebangakwakhona ukutenda kanye nathi, but most of the things azame ukutenda nabe ngisile singakhona mhlambe ukuthi kulesinye isikhathi sibhende to ensure that we accommodate khona le concept lesibita nge reasonable accommodation ukuthi nje azame ukuthi reasonable is ba accommodate in whatever we're doing kuze ukuthi bangadiveli ba out bangadiveli bama outcasts ku society ukuthi bona athi ngasa bafiti kahle ukuthi ngawuthi mhlambe bandele lokuthi special nani, but ngoba disability kakhulu isesigabeni sokuthi remove nama barriers. If there are barriers that abavimbela ukuthi bona participate freely and fully ku society, then it's a disability. Otherwise lokuthi bane impairment is not just a disability lokubane impairment. Le disability ifika nasekunala ama barriers ukuthi wena usakhona participate ku societal activities or whatsoever because you have an impairment mhlambe we are physically challenged or whatsoever. So nasingazama nje we understand kanjalo disability kuneko ukuthi sibe kusalo because ngitela unyawo lunye I don't think disabled ngisakho. Because there are things that I can do lokuthi ngitela unyawo lunya kwakungivimbele ukuthi ngende letinye izinto letitsitene lokuthi mina ngihamba ngwheelchair akungivimbi ukuthi nami ngahamba ngifike kuphi as long as kude leti hibe litangivimbela ukuthi wheelchair yami itahamba phi lapha ngoba senje masingakhona kusuza leto ntho leto I can be able to nami live and participate in the rest like the rest of us.
All right, so it's not 20 seconds kepha ile commemoration itaenda nini?
Okay, so because namhla vele is the 11th of October kufanele ukuthi namhla send the commemoration, but due to other commitments obviously litawube line press conference litawube siyenda khona at DPM's office where we're inviting all the media houses ukuthi abe khona where the PS which is Ambassador Melus Masuku will be presenting statement of support in commemorating this day. So at 2 p.m. just abe saka DPM conference room senda leyo press conference, and then in terms of an activity to appreciate this day and be with the girls stabe sinayo on the 16th of October, which is next week Monday. And currently just see at the UN house where we found a venue. Last time we invited all the girls and other stakeholders with the 7 sign now.
All right, thanks so much Smakhulu Mbukeli so divele school ma dona tindzaba tebanfana bemamfambatana tinkinga nje kahle kahle lababhekana nato. The second break stabe sahlelo nasifiso.
Let me tell you about my crush. Ngenzane inhliziyo yami embi kwakho njengedance.
Nkonjo yesiswati.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
mbukela sekusele nje umzuzu munye kuthishaya insimbi esiphohlongo lomhla ekuseni sesinivalelisa siyabonga ukuthi nikhethe kuba nasi lomhla ekuseni sethemba ukuthi indaba nelanga lelihle nalelibusesikile asibonane kusasa.